Noniin, eli meillä on tulossa ihana haastattelu Stephanie Burrowsin kanssa. Hän on siis tämän ihanan Oak Ash Thornin tekijä, yksi tekijöistä. Ja hän tulee toivottavasti tuossa tasalta mukaan linjoille ja päästään sitten juttelemaan.
It just sometimes doesn't agree.
Well, that's how it goes. But here we are.
Yes. Hi everyone. I'm like I said, I'm really bad with technology. I don't see any names on the screen that I can see, but for anyone that's in the chat, hi.
There's 24 of us at the moment. And yeah, I'm gonna try. I have my computer here with me so I can see some comments, but the comments usually come with a delay, so I don't know. And
right. Let me see if I can get it back on my computer so I can actually see the comments.
This is always like...
I see it. Okay, it's there. So I have my phone here, my computer there.
Yeah, same. So if I'm looking like this, then it's just I'm trying to see the comments. Okay, whew. Kind of, I got a bit reddish because I went so nervous, like, oh no, what's going on? Is this not working? But now everything's fine, so I can cool down. I'll drink some water first.
I have my cup of tea, but it's really warm where I am right now, surprisingly for England. So I'm like, I know people like a cup of tea even when it's hot, but I'm kind of like, I should have a cold beverage when it's this warm, but I have it there anyway. Just in case.
I have tea as well, so
yes,
I have both. Good. So
well, it's nice to finally actually speak to you. All of my correspondence with you has been on Instagram and Facebook Messenger, so it's nice to hear your voice.
Yeah, it's always different to actually see your face that moves and sound. So it's really cool.
Yeah.
And thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing this. This is really. I know many are like really waiting for this, and your deck, this beautiful deck, has been really well received here. Like this is well, we sold out really quickly. It's like the fastest indie deck, like sold out like the quickest, and we have like a new set, but this really resonates with us Finns, obviously. I could say.
Good.
So I'm really glad.
I'm just happy that people like it as much as I did when creating it. It was really nerve-wracking, you know, you put yourself out there and your ideas, and I was so new to the tarot community. I was like, I'm an unknown. I thought, will people like it? Will they think it's as great as I do? And I really just wanted to create something that, like my own tarot deck, that had cute little animals in it, because I like all things cute. And you know, since moving to the UK, I have all this all these beautiful surroundings, and we go to the Lake District, and we've been to Cornwall, and it's so pretty there that you can't help but to get all this inspiration from everything around you. And so yeah, I just really wanted to create something that I loved, and I'm just really like, it's such a nice thing that people love it as much as I do. It makes me think this has been really worth it. Otherwise I would have just had one really expensive deck that I created just for me. But
well, that's a good thing.
It's been quite an experience. It's all great.
So you said that you are an unknown to the tarot community. So what does it mean? Like, is it like you just came into the community like, hi, I have a deck, or what happened? Like, what's your story?
Well, you know, my mother's read the cards ever since I can remember. She had a Marseille deck that she used, and so I've always had the cards around me in one way or another. And I really I got into it just only a few years ago. It never, you know, I always found it really interesting, but I remember it was around the time that my dad was ill, and my family, well, most of my family lives in Florida, and I was visiting, and my mom has this little like she has like a little shelf of all of her craft items, and she had a Edward Gorey like oracle type deck called the Fantod pack, and I remember going through the cards and suddenly it just clicked. I'm like, I need to know more about, I need to really delve into tarot and find out more. And then it's just like, it stuck with me. So when I decided to create a deck, I remember I was, I hired my artist, and it was just tarot all the time. It was like, it was wonderful. And I would occasionally share a progress photo on one of the Facebook group or a few of the Facebook groups. And it was just like, there's just such fantastic artwork out there and so many great decks. I thought, are they going to like it? Are they going to like what I'm doing, especially that they don't know me? But people wound up liking it. And through those groups, I've formed so many really great friendships with people, and just a lot of people that have been like my cheerleaders along the way.
Yeah.
And it's been a wonderful experience. So to be an unknown coming in and being kind of welcomed with open arms is such a really great community. And in that fact is that you can come in and forge these friendships and share your creation, and people are just so warm and positive about it.
Yeah.
It's good.
Sounds really great.
Yeah.
And what a first deck. Like, whoa, fantastic.
I didn't expect it, to be honest. I mean, I did my Kickstarter. I remember talking to my husband about how I'm creating this deck, and I need to hire my artist, and we were discussing, the money that goes into that and all the time that goes into it. And it was just was taking a really big risk. But the Kickstarter did really, really well, way more than I could have ever anticipated. And luckily the risk kind of paid off. I was able to pay my artist that same year, and prove my husband wrong. But
yay.
He's always been very supportive. He just never quite understood the whole world of tarot, which a lot of people don't, and that's okay. But now he knows my deck like I do. He's like, oh, on that card you have that image on it, because I'm working on this dragon deck, which is my next deck. And yeah. He's like, oh, you had this in the other card, maybe you can do this with this card, because I'm always telling him my ideas. And yeah, so it's really kind of cool. I've kind of converted him to my side.
Yeah, cool. Great job.
Yeah.
So okay, that's a great, like, such an inspiring story, like how you can just, if you have a passion and then you just go for it and things work out and you believe in yourself. How long, like, what's the time period? When did you come up with it, and when was it ready? Like, how many, was it years, months? How long did it take?
I feel like I've lost all track of time. I think beginning of 2000, end of 2017, I would say, and then starting in 2018, I actually started working with Adam on the deck, and then I think we crowdfunded in 2019. I had been writing the descriptions for a long time, and I think the biggest challenge in creating a deck is getting the artist that you want, because it's such a huge undertaking. They're creating 78 pieces of art, and he was the artist I really wanted to illustrate the deck, and I thought, please say yes. So by the time that I hired him, I had all of my artwork descriptions written, and I would say, surprisingly, he didn't take that long illustrating it. He said, oh, I'll be done by this time. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yeah. And I think maybe 8 months it took him to illustrate the deck, and then we went to crowdfunding.
Yeah.
So I would say probably about 2 years in total it took me from idea to artwork descriptions to hiring my artist and getting it fully illustrated, and then I just worked on the other bits in between, which was formatting the deck and writing the online guidebook, and it kind of morphed into this whole thing. I knew I wanted it to be an eco-friendly deck. And so I was really just spending a lot of my time making sure that every single aspect of it was eco-friendly. So I did all those things in between him illustrating and while the Kickstarter was going on. So I guess the long answer was probably about 1.5 to 2 years, I would say.
Yeah.
I can't believe how quickly the time has just flown by, and I mean it's already end of August.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
So how did you find Adam? How did you choose him? You obviously knew him from before, like his work, or you just knew?
Well, I had him on my Instagram for quite a while, so I was kind of like stalking him on Facebook. I'm like, please illustrate my deck. And I'd just been following him for a while, and I sent him an email, and he got back to me and was interested. And I said, okay, I'll send you my brief. I sent him about 6 or 7 artwork descriptions, and kind of explained to him how the tarot would be set up, and how I wanted to have a different animal to represent each suit, and how the majors would work. And he was on board for it. I mean, originally, I'm glad I went this route instead of what I did before. I was gonna have him just illustrate, because I didn't know much about Kickstarter and how to successfully fund a deck. But at the time, I was just gonna have him illustrate 15 cards and get funded for the deck, and then have him illustrate the whole deck. But I knew that wasn't the best thing to do. You want to have a good majority of the artwork finished.
Yeah.
Because I think going into a Kickstarter as a backer, you want to know that they take a while as it is, because there's so much that goes into a Kickstarter for the creator. But I think having all the artwork done is more reassuring for the backers, and I'm really glad that we got all the artwork done first. Yeah. So, but his artwork is phenomenal. I mean, he's done all sorts. He shows his work in a gallery in New York. He's written a few books, and it's exactly what I wanted for my tarot deck. His art style was exactly it. And it's nice to have someone who is completely on board, and I hired him for the reason of I loved his work. So when he makes suggestions for certain cards, or maybe we should do this instead, I really take his advice to heart.
Yeah.
So we've really not only forged this artist, someone who's hiring an artist, but we've grown into good friends where we take each other's opinions on board and bounce ideas off of each other, which I think is a great thing to do with the person that you're working with.
Yeah.
And his wife is phenomenally talented as well. If you go to his not his Facebook, if you go to his webpage, you'll see his wife's work too. It's just an artistic family. I wish I had that talent.
Oh, sounds so great. I've watched his Instagram, so I know he's really good. And of course, looking at these images, these cards, you can tell that it's And for an artist that he has your full trust, that must be so much easier to create when you actually know that you're being trusted. So that's really good. So the outcome must be much better than if you don't feel that as an artist, I could imagine.
Yeah. And it's, when I write the artwork descriptions, I will usually bounce my ideas off of my husband as well. I'm like, does this make sense? If I'm reading this to you, can you actually visualize what I'm talking about? Because when I give that to him, I want him, it makes his job a lot easier, when he could read an artwork description and, kind of visualize, the position in which the animal is sitting, and what they're doing and how they're doing it. And I will frequently go on, if I want a fox sitting a certain way, I'll frequently go on to Pinterest, or try to find an actual photograph of that animal sitting in that position, so he has a good idea of what it looks like, just in case my description isn't 100% understandable. Because sometimes I think I've gotten better, but sometimes I overcomplicate an artwork description and there's too much going on. And he'd be like, "Oh, you want this?" I'm like, "Yeah, you just summarized it in one sentence. That's exactly what I meant."
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good.
Yeah. How did you come up with the animals? Like, why did you choose animals? And why? How did you pick these animals that are represented here?
Yeah, well, I was, when I thought of the suits, I thought, well, when we think of the swords, it's all about what's going on in your head, and I thought, well, what's a really like when I was looking, I have a lot of nature books that I referred to as well, and the behavior of animals, and like with your ravens, they're quite intelligent birds. And I thought that's perfect. And the sword suit is general, from at least from what I've seen. I mean, they can be depicted in different ways in all sorts of different decks, as we all know. But the swords are usually a very dark suit. And I thought, okay, ravens are not only intelligent creatures, but they have this fabulous dark feathers. And I thought that's a perfect animal, a perfect bird to represent the suit of swords. And I'm a swords person. Like, I find that I relate most to the swords as well.
Yeah.
So I know that when me and you were chatting, you had asked me, what my favorite card is in the whole deck, and that would be the Eight of Swords. It's like me in a card. That's my favorite card.
You know what? I took it as well.
It's fabulous.
Yeah,
I
love
just
it.
love the way it turned out. It's me, because I find I stress out over a lot of different things, and sometimes I just can't get through that stress. But we all know that if I just took off that little blindfold of mine, I could probably see past this problem that I'm encountering.
Yeah.
But that is my favorite card in the whole deck. I think falling behind that would be just because of his little expression.
Oh,
the little Four of Cups. So cute.
It is cute.
But with so let's see here. So with the hairs, with the pentacle suit, I think of just if I was to take them literally for how they are, you always think of hares and rabbits creating more hairs and rabbits creating more hairs and rabbits. So it's all that abundance, and that they just feel very, very earthy to me. So I thought that's perfect. We'll go with hares for that suit. And I'm having a brain fog. What was that? What was my other one? So we have the foxes for the fire suits.
Yeah.
I just felt that they're kind of a sneaky little animal, and they're full of all this energy. I thought that's perfect for the one suits. I'm missing a suit though. What am I missing? Cups. Squirrels. Oh, squirrels.
Squirrels.
So squirrels. The squirrel suit. Originally, the suit of cups was going to be a suit of geese.
Oh.
I read somewhere with geese that when one geese is hurt, the other geese won't leave its side, or its mate won't leave its side. And I thought, well, that's perfect for your cups. But Adam had suggested, he said, why don't we do squirrels? And I said, I'm trying to think of how I can justify doing squirrels for cups. Because we look at, if we think of it elementally, I think the reason I picked geese, another part of it was they're water creatures.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, how can I justify squirrels? And since moving to the UK, they have the red squirrels. I don't know do you have red squirrels there? Do you have red squirrels in your country?
Yes.
Well, here they're they're on the decline, and partly to do with the fact that we have so many gray squirrels, and they carry this squirrel pox, and that tends to kill off the red squirrels, and the red squirrels seem quite beloved in this country. So people consider gray squirrels pests.
Oh.
And I came across this article. It was called, I forget who it was by, but it was called "In Defense of the Gray Squirrel." And it basically hinted at it's not their fault. They were imported into this country at one point. They're not going out of their way to kill the red squirrels. It's not their fault. So I thought, that's it. Gray squirrels and red squirrels living in the suit of cups in harmony. And I thought, that's how we'll justify it. Grays and reds in the cups. And I am so glad we went with squirrels because they're so playful, and I feel like that's what our cup suit should have been all along. So that's that with the suits, and that was Adam's suggestion.
Yeah,
which is great.
I didn't even like think about the fact that they're not water animals. I kind of looked at the acorns. When you have the acorns, they look like cups. So that was for me enough. It was like, well, it's cups. So, but that was really cool story to add on to that.
Yeah.
Give some insight.
The little acorn shells, I thought, oh, so that's such a perfect thing for it. But I know, like with tarot, I mean, again, I can be like, compared to other people, I'm so new to tarot. I thought, well, do I want to do an elemental type of tarot deck, or do I want to do something that just feeds into the idea of what each suit means? And it's kind of turned out to be a bit of a combination of those things. Now with the next deck, the dragon deck that I'm creating, that's a very elemental deck. So like your suit of cups, your cups dragons will resemble like almost like little frog like dragons with webbed feet and gills, and your swords dragons will be dark in color and have wings because of the air elements. And your pentacles dragons, they're very earthy, so you'll find that many of their wings are made of like tree leaves. And I'm missing a suit. What suit have I missed? Swords,
pentacles, no. Wands?
Did you say yes, the wand. So you'll see a suit where the dragons are all red, and there's a lot of smoke and fog and fire incorporated into that. So it still kind of sticks to the world of Oak Ash and Thorn, but in a slightly different way. Which is kind of cool. Yeah.
Oh, can't wait. So the new deck is called Smoke Ash and Embers.
Yes.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So how is that project going? How far are you?
It's going well. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I would like to launch my I'm not doing a Kickstarter. I'm just going to do pre-orders instead. And the goal with that was, because Kickstarter, you're charged a fee through Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And that, depending on how you do, that can add up to, that could add up to extra money that could go towards other things. So I thought, instead of doing the Kickstarter, do pre-orders on my website, save on paying that fee, and instead I can do like early bird specials and extras with the decks right off the bat. So instead of like, you know, like with a Kickstarter, when a lot of people, they'll do stretch goals.
Yeah.
And the stretch goals are to get like with my Oak Ash and Thorn, you got stickers and prints and different things. But I figure with the pre-order, since I can bypass the whole Kickstarter and paying a fee at the end, I can instead put that into including extras with the decks, you know, just automatically included, and do like special pricing on the deck and bundles. So if anyone wanted to like purchase Oak Ash and Thorn and the new deck together, they could, and save on a bit of shipping. So that's the reason I'm doing pre-orders. But I'm hoping, if all stays on track, and I'm pretty sure it will, because we only have he's done sketches. So we have 11 cards left to illustrate. He's done sketches for 6. He's just in the middle of finishing up his artwork for the next show that he's doing in New York. So he's just temporarily stopped that, and he's going to go back beginning of September and finish up the cards. So what I'd like to do is launch on Halloween.
Ooh,
which I think would be good.
That would be really good.
Yeah, and do like do the launch all month long. So it would be like till the end of November to do the good pricing on it, and the extras automatically included. And then it gives me a good idea of how many I should order. And then I'll place my order after that and get the ball rolling on it, which would be great.
Yeah.
I'm really, really excited. I'm just as excited as Oak Ash and Thorn, if not maybe a tiny bit more.
Yeah.
Just because it's wonderful. I mean, it's like you take the world of Oak Ash and Thorn, and I always think of it like if you were walking through the world of Oak Ash and Thorn, you didn't look up into the tree or look underneath those rocks where the hidden dragons are. It's almost like if you looked a bit closer in Oak Ash and Thorn, the dragons were there all along. You just didn't see them.
Yeah.
But in Smoke Ash Embers, they've kind of come out of their hiding, and they're ready to, like, kind of, you know, be a part of your life.
People are obviously getting on the comments really excited about this new deck as well. Mariana is asking, any sneaks about the new deck, please? They are keen on seeing it.
I don't have much printed out, but I had printed off some samples of like my stickers and you know, one print of one of the prints. So it kind of gives you a good idea, but I'm sure that's your card back.
Yeah, oh, beautiful. I love card backs.
No, this is just a sticker, so, and it's not the deck, of course. So it's like, of course the final would have rounded edges and everything. But that's the card back. It's like he looks comfortable sitting in his little nest of leaves and flowers.
That's so beautiful. I really love backs of decks, like cards. I'm a freak. I love these. Like, love the details.
That was another thing I was a bit nervous about was, you know, because I know everyone has their preferences. Like some people like thick cardstock, some people like thinner cardstock, some people like reversible decks, some people don't mind if it's not reversible. And I always say you could use a deck in whatever way that works for you.
Yeah.
But I was a bit worried, like even with Oak Ash and Thorn, it's not 100% reversible, because if you look closely at that emblem, you know, you'll see, you can kind of tell if it's right side up or reversed, but I just kind of like it anyway. But with this, it's not a reversible deck, but it doesn't mean that you can't use reversals with it. So, but it kind of works both ways. It looks really pretty both ways.
Yeah, it does. Oh.
And then the Hierophant.
Oh.
Little guy, he has a key hanging around his neck and his little scepter. And it's hard to see, but I asked Adam, I said, can you embed little gemstones into the trunk of the tree?
Oh, that's so beautiful.
And it almost looks like he holds that key to things we want to know. You have to work for it a bit, don't you? Yeah. Very beautiful.
That's really beautiful.
The Emperor. So all the majors, just like the Oak Ash and Thorn, all of your majors have those mystical dark skies.
Yeah, I love it.
I kind of like him because he not only looks a bit ferocious, but he looks like he's having a bit of a laugh as well. Like, this is my forest.
Yeah.
This is my kingdom.
Amazing.
And then, let's see here. This is the Chariot.
Oh.
So he's a tiny little dragon, and he's using the little dandelion fluff to go to his next, wherever he's going next.
That's my favorite. Dandelions, I love them. So that's dark background and dandelions and dragons. What more do you need? It's beautiful.
Well, with the dragons, I kind of created a dragon deck that I really wanted for myself, and I wanted it to be like, not all the cards are gentle, some can be a bit scary, but most of them, it kind of feels like it's a kind of a comforting deck, even though some of the dragons are a bit on the scary side. But it feels like the deck has a bit of a sense of humor about it, and it's approachable. I find that some of the dragon decks that I see out there, they're not necessarily my style. Like, some go very medieval, and I'm not it's just not my personal preference. I'm not really into medieval decks, and I do have people decks, but I prefer, like, my decks not to have people in them. I wanted it to be all dragons and woodland creatures, and I wanted Oak Ash and Thorn to not have any people in it. I just wanted it to be animals, like humans don't exist. Nothing against humans, of course, but
of course not.
Yeah. So it's turning out great. I'm so eager to, like, release it into the world, and I really hope people love it as much as I do. It's created in the same like it's from my heart. So I'm hoping that shows and people love it as much as I do.
I think they will. the amount of hearts that just flew when you showed the cards.
Ah,
I think people will love it. Won't you? Show some love.
you will. No.
Yeah. Yeah. I just have to see if someone is asking anything. No. Amazing. I'm really excited to see it and love, love, love this Oak Ash Thorn. All the
I've been
animals.
working on my, the page. So my goal is like, if I'm 99% positive that I will launch pre-orders on October 31st.
Yeah.
And my goal is to send out all the information that people need about 2 weeks ahead of time. So anyone on my email list, anyone who follows me on Instagram, I'll definitely let people know, let them know the link to go to if they wanted to get the information about that deck. And I cover everything. And I think I've been working on that page since Adam started illustrating the deck. And I constantly revisit it because I try to make it so it's understandable and as clear as possible. Because I always like to be really, really honest with people about every single aspect of the deck.
Yeah.
So there's no surprises, because I would want that as well. So and I think it's quite thorough. But once Adam finishes the cards, I'll get dummy decks printed, and I can photograph them, and then get a lot of photos on that page that I send out to people, like the 2 weeks ahead of time. Yeah. So people can get a really good idea of what the deck's going to look like. And it's basically going to be the same format as Oak Ash and Thorn. It'll be the same cardstock, the same type of paper, the same, matte lamination. I think when I launched Oak Ash and Thorn, one of the things, besides putting our idea out there into the world, was cardstock. I was really nervous about that because I know everyone has a different preference, but I was really happy that when people started receiving their decks, I didn't get a lot of people who didn't like the cardstock, and I said, brilliant. That is something, I'll keep it exactly the same, because people seem to like it, which is good. So just think of it as Oak Ash and Thorns, the same setup. It'll have, I'll be working on an online guidebook for it. It'll have reference cards. So there will be no surprises. And even though they'll have different card backs, I kind of like the idea. I don't know if anyone would do this, but I kind of like the idea, like, you can mix the decks together. Like, I like that 2 of Pentacles from the Dragon deck instead of the 2 of Pentacles in the Oak Ash and Thorn. So you could almost kind of create your own little, like, deck in a way.
Yeah.
Sort of. Yeah. Yeah, that'll be good. I don't know if anyone will, but that was kind of the idea, that it would be a sister deck to Oak Ash and Thorn, and you can mix them together if you want. You could keep them completely separate, because it's always nice to have, some options, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the Dragon deck, there's going to be 2 10 of Swords in the Dragon deck. One a bit gentler than the other 10 of Swords, because I know how it can be with your 10 of Swords, because my original 10 of Swords is it's very sad, but the new 10 of Swords, the alternative 10 of Swords, you could choose whichever one that you want to mix into the deck, is a bit gentler. Sometimes, when you watch a scary movie, you're like, no, don't let the dog die. You care more about the dog than you do, like, the humans that are in danger. Yeah. Some people don't like an animal being stabbed with 10 swords, and that's what my original 10 of Swords is. Yeah. So I decided to come up with an alternative 10 of Swords and include both in the deck, which would be kind of cool.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds really good. 10 of Swords is always like one of the scary cards in the deck, usually.
It's a tough card. It is a tough card. Yeah, I can see why people would feel that way, though. You're like, because I'm like, no, poor
not
animal.
This one.
But not this one. But people can choose to keep that in the deck if they want to, or they can use the alternative one, which would be cool. Yeah. So, but I'll keep that one. I think I'll keep that a bit under wraps. But there will definitely be 2 10 of Swords in the deck.
Yeah. This card in Oak Ash and Thorn, which is it's a kind of a sneak peek to the new deck, isn't it?
It is, yes.
But you can also use it as an extra card. Is that the idea that you had with this?
It is. And you know, when I did the guidebook, I didn't even talk about the possibilities card because I'm like, you could read it any way that you want to. But when I told Adam, I said, I definitely want to there will be at that time I was like, there's definitely going to be a second deck. And he's like, yes, that's great. And he was happy when he found out that it was dragons, because he has, like, if you go onto his website, he has some illustrations that are just fantastic. So he's really looking forward to the fact that the whole theme of it would be dragons mixed in with our little oak critters, of course. So yeah, you can mix that in with the deck. And I'm really happy to see, like, when I've watched walkthroughs, a good majority of the people doing the walkthroughs are like, I'm going to keep that in the deck. I'm like, yeah, that's good, because it mixes both decks, but in a way that makes sense for Oak Ash and Thorn as well.
Yeah. And it doesn't, and to me it was just obvious that I'm going to keep it in the deck. Like, it's not like,
I like that they're kind of looking forward. So, like, it's almost like the world is at their not fingertips, but whatever.
It's like a little oracle card in the mix. Like, you get the little, hey, everything's fine. You get the 10 of swords, and then you get the possibilities. So
definitely
really cool. So I'm gonna see if someone has asked me. Ville is asking if we can leave a pre-order already to get the deck to us. Obviously.
Of course.
Good.
Yes. It will be probably, my goal is, I'll be taking the pre-orders starting October 31st till the end of November. Yeah. And then I'll have a really good idea about my numbers, and I'll be able to place an order accordingly. Yeah. And then it's just putting it to print. So it would probably be available the next year. I'm hoping that it really just depends, because with COVID and everything, with my printer and all businesses, it's really depends on if, they have people that are, because what happened with the printing of the last deck is it happened right during the pandemic. Yeah. And a lot of people had to quarantine. I don't anticipate that we'll have much of, I would expect that it would stay on track, but probably I would say March-ish of the following year, I'm hoping to start shipping. It could be April, depending, because if I fund all of November, it'll go to print in December, and then there's the winter holiday to deal with and everything. But you definitely. And what's really great about the printer that I use is their real attention to detail. Making sure that the borders are as even as possible, and any issues that I've had, they've really sorted out. With the Kickstarter, originally I was going to have the inside of the box was going to have printing, but when I received samples of decks, the prints from the inside of the box had rubbed onto the sides of the card, so that delayed things a bit. Yeah. But they always sorted those issues, so I know they're really on top of things. I wish I could have them now. I wish I could be like, snap my fingers, and the decks are just right there. I'm like, here's the artwork, snap, they're there. But I know. I guess the waiting's hard, but the waiting bit, at least, I don't know. I heard something once before. I think my husband told me that they did a study where the planning of a holiday is more exciting than the holiday itself. That's true. So, but I think it's like I think it is probably a really terrible analogy for this, but essentially, it's been such fun creating the deck and everything. It's just I have to be patient and wait. But it's kind of like a Kickstarter in that when I finally receive it, it's so great. All of this waiting has really, really paid off, because now you have, like any deck, you've waited so long for a deck, and you finally have it in your hands, and it's great. And so it's just I have to deal with the waiting. Yeah. But I do. I wish I could snap my fingers and they'd be there. But March. I'm hoping that's the goal. Yeah. Well,
time goes by really fast, so.
It does, yeah.
And kind of, you can think about it like this making process is one journey, and then when it ends, then starts the other journey when the deck is alive, and then you see how people receive it and all the feedback
And I
and
think
stuff.
the best part is like taking people along on your journey.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed doing a Kickstarter and sending out like my weekly email. Like, you would send out updates to people, and I would try to do them every single week, because I just liked including people as much as possible. And even though it won't be a Kickstarter this time, I'm going to try to kind of keep up, that same thing where I'm going to try to send out emails. I'm thinking about maybe doing a blog where people can look at it at any point if they want updates, but I do want to keep people updated as much as possible and keep people in the loop, because to be honest, the whole reason that I'm able to like create that, like it's what I do now. I was working in a sandwich shop, and then I was furloughed, and I launched my Kickstarter, and then just I was really fortunate that I can just, this is what I do now.
Yeah,
And
it's your job.
people are such an important part of that, the Kickstarter backers and everyone who has ordered from me since. And everyone's really lovely and kind, and it just feels like I said earlier, I have cheerleaders along the way, and so I owe it to people to keep them in the loop as much as I possibly can. The only thing I'm hesitant about is I don't want to burn people out too much, like too much communication, because I know, like, from the time that I started sharing it, it's been a long time, and when it comes to waiting for a tarot deck, from sharing it to getting it printed to shipping it out, it can feel like such a long time. But I'm going to try to keep people in the loop as much as I can, so people know that I'm not forgetting about anyone.
That was so inspiring to hear that it's your job now, and you worked in a sandwich store, because probably I could imagine there's many people who are thinking about, oh, I want to do a deck, I want to create my own deck, and no one really knows how much work goes into it, like how much time, like can you really do anything else than just focus on a deck if you want to make it really good? I mean, you can't be working in a store full time if you want to do.
Yeah, you definitely can be doing both. It is more time consuming than I could have ever anticipated. I think because Oak Ash and Thorn, when it launched on Kickstarter, and it did really, really well, which I was so happy that it did so well. I was just really hoping to make my money back and put my deck out into the world. I didn't expect that it would then become a legitimate business. I would become this Three Trees Tarot and everything. But you can definitely do both. And if anyone's ever thinking about creating a deck, I would say go for it if that's what you want to do. And what's really nice about the tarot community is you have a lot of deck creators that are happy to share their experiences and answer questions about those things.
Yeah.
So I would say if you ever did have questions, I'm happy to answer them, or reach out to your favorite deck creator and ask them if you're thinking about creating a deck. I just think if that's what you want to do, why not?
Yeah. Exactly.
It's been a really good experience.
Yeah.
I would want that for everyone. So
follow your passion. That's always something I encourage everyone, me included, to remind myself, okay, what do I really want to do? And then just do that, because usually that is what will bring you the best satisfaction and the rewards afterwards. So if you follow your heart, so that's so.
I never knew when people ask you what you want to be when you grow up, I really never knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. And then I started creating this deck, and I thought, this is what I was meant to be doing, essentially. And it's funny because my mom, who knew all about tarot, and I didn't know too much, I kind of feel like I know a bit more than she does now. But we have this thing that we can talk about together, and she has my deck, and she draws a card each day just to see how the day will pan out. And she's a very she's a person who believes that you should only have one deck, and that you should sleep with it under your pillow wrapped in silk. And I'm like, Mom, I'm not sleeping with my deck underneath my pillow. I'll ruin my beautiful deck. I'm not doing that. I'll keep it there. But she was very, one deck wrapped in silk underneath your pillow, and you can never have I'm just having one deck no matter what. And since my deck, she has my deck, and she's collected another deck that she uses, and it's really nice to see. And there's nothing wrong with believing that you should only use one deck and those things. I'm just like, I'm into really cute things. So if I see a cute deck out there, I'm like, I have to have that.
Yeah.
Like I got the Panda tarot deck yesterday. I'm like, this is so cute. But I would say that my favorite tarot deck, and it's because it's my first tarot deck, is the Crystal Unicorn.
Oh.
And it has a fabulous 8 of Swords as well. It's a Rider-Waite-Smith clone deck.
Yeah. Oh.
And it's just like all kinds of happy. It's pastel-y and beautiful, and so that's kind of what kicked off everything as well.
Yeah.
Once I got on the tarot kick, that was my very own tarot deck, and I love it. My mom didn't quite understand it though.
Oh, was it too cute?
Unicorns. She's like, unicorns? It's like, yeah, unicorns. Come on now.
And pandas and unicorns. Why not?
But I think she's more open-minded now. She'll, if I suggest a deck to her, I think she'll take it on board as opposed to before when she's like, no, just one deck.
Yeah. Well, you opened her mind as well, so that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Let's see, what time is it? We still have some time left. Maybe we could talk about the eco-friendliness, because that's really a huge part of the deck. Like, I'm really impressed by it. So if you want to tell us something about that, I think that would be really interesting.
So when I was first looking into creating a deck, I kind of didn't know exactly how I wanted to get it printed. There's so many options out there. But I eventually kind of came to this. I wanted to have it printed locally because I wanted it to have a low carbon footprint. And nothing wrong with printing in China, but that's like the decks being printed there to be shipped to me, for me to ship all around the world, all around the world. At that time, I didn't know how many I would be shipping out because I didn't know how it would do. But at that time, I knew that I did want it to be printed locally. Now, when I say locally, my printer's in Brighton. They're about a 4 or 5 hour drive down south. But at least they're closer to me than it would be if I printed in, let's say, some decks I think are printed in Italy, some decks are printed in China. I don't know if some decks are printed in the United States. I think there are a few tarot deck printers there. But then it kind of grew to this, how eco-friendly can I get it to be? So when I spoke to my printer, I said, what can we do to make it even more eco-friendly? And what's really cool about Generation Press, which is the printer that I use, they use vegetable-based inks. I think 2 of their presses are powered by solar power. I think they even have bees that they get honey from on their land. It's kind of a cool thing.
Oh.
Not that that has to do with tarot, but I just thought that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So with the deck being eco-friendly, I also made the box eco-friendly too. It's difficult with eco-friendliness because I'm kind of a fan of tuck boxes. The one that you have there is a newly designed tuck box with a glued bottom, and it's very easy to open. My original Kickstarter had the locking notches, and you would basically you stand the chance of destroying the top of the box opening it. But with that one, it opens up very, very easily. But it's a hard thing with boxes because people are like, well, I'm gonna throw out the tarot box, so do a 2-part box. So you can go either way on the eco-friendliness. I happen to like tuck boxes, but I wanted to make the tuck box a bit stronger where you're less likely to have people throw it away, and I want it to be beautiful enough where you're actually going to keep it, so you're not throwing it away. But if you did decide to throw it away, at least we know that the inks are veggie and it's made with recycled paper, and that you could throw it right into your recycling bin if you wanted to. And then it grew to, how can I make my packaging, like the box that I actually send the decks in, eco-friendly? So there's one of the main companies that I use here is a company called Priory Direct, and they rate their packaging on a 5-leaf scale. So the more leaves they have, so if you go to a product, there'll be like 5 leaves, and if they're all green, it's like one leaf means that it's sustainable, one is carbon neutral, one is recyclable, one is plastic free, and so on. And I really challenged myself to find the boxes and the padding, the paper to protect the decks in transit. I challenged myself to find packaging that was as eco-friendly as I could possibly make it. And I wanted to try to make it where if I am ordering supplies, I try to order them all at once so they go on the same truck and they're not making multiple deliveries to me. So it really just kind of started as this whole, I want it eco-friendly, to how eco-friendly could I make it?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do it in a pushy way. I didn't want it to be like, you should recycle, you should reuse, shame on you if you don't. I didn't want it to be like that.
Yeah.
I just wanted it to be a standard part of the deck. This just it's automatically what comes with your deck, essentially. So if you're gonna throw the box in the recycling bin, that's great. Or if you want to throw your packaging in the recycling, like your padding.
Yeah.
But also what I've been getting into the habit of is I try to save as much packaging as I can. So if I order something, because I work out of my house, if I get a package from wherever I'm non-tarot related, I'm just ordering something online, I'll save the boxes and I'll reuse them to send things into. Most of them are larger boxes. So if someone's ordering 2, 3, or 4 decks, I'll reuse this packaging.
Yeah.
Because the automatic thing that we tend to do is we throw the packaging into the recycling bin, but I kind of wanted it to get as much use as possible. So if I can reuse a box and it makes a second round, so I give it another lifespan. I really like using like old boxes to package orders in, because I kind of feel like, even though I know I'm just this tiny little drop in the ocean, and I know that it's probably up to big corporations to do a bit more. I kind of makes me feel good. I kind of feel like I'm doing my bit, and I think reusing is a really important thing to do with your packaging.
Yeah.
Instead of throwing it into the recycling bin, because to recycle something, it's a lot of energy. When it goes to the recycling plants, that's a whole other thing. So if I'm able to reuse a box and send it out again, I'll try to do that.
Yeah.
And I have little stickers that I'll stick on the box. It'll say, this was sent in reused packaging, so people know exactly what they're getting.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing with me is, again, being as honest and upfront with people as I possibly can, but not being a person who shames people. I don't want people to feel like you have to do this, otherwise you're.
Yeah.
I just want it to be a standard that my decks are sent in reused packaging, and if they're not sent in reused packaging, the packaging is as eco-friendly as I can make it.
Yeah, that's really
so
cool.
I kind of challenged myself and just kind of dove into it, and it's kind of been fun challenging myself. And questioning things, and it can be very confusing. I think with anything that's eco-friendly, I mean, there's good things and bad things with all different types of packaging.
Yeah.
You just got to kind of weigh up what works best for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have recycled your box that you send us. It has also gone to a customer, so we recycle packages as well. So it's gone. It came to us, and then it moved on to. It got one more chance, one more cycle. So
that's good. I think the box that I sent you, it had the stickers on it. It would say sent to reuse packaging. And like if I get bubble wrap, like I won't buy bubble wrap to like wrap things in. But if I happen to get sent something with bubble wrap, I'll wrap decks with the bubble wrap occasionally, and at least it gives that a second life.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it feel like you can still put it in the recycling bin, but I want to use it yet again to wrap the decks in. Most of the time that I'll use bubble wrap will be like for your order. Like if you order a bunch of decks in, I'll use that bubble wrap just because it, you know, just feels like it makes sense for that. Not that the packaging that I use to protect the decks isn't good enough for everything else, but when you're sending like, let's say 10 decks at a time, I always worry that things are like bumping up against each other. I feel like with that bubble wrap, it makes it a bit more safe, and I feel good knowing that I haven't bought in bubble wrap. I'm just reusing bubble wrap.
And it's good because we have had shippings from the States where half of the decks were like not usable because they had so it was kind of like not cool because it's kind of a difficult to get stuff from the States, and then when you get them and then they're not packed well, and then it's a bummer, but it's a good thing. I
think like when I first started sending out decks, another stress, like especially with the Kickstarter, was the first time that I was sending out decks, and I thought, what if decks arrive damaged? Like these are the things that go through my mind. Like, what if I haven't chosen the right type of packaging? What if it's not padded enough? Luckily it was, and I've just continued using that because it works. But I like that like a majority of our bubble wrap is not like the plastic bubble wrap. It's almost like comes out of a dispenser, and when you pull it, it kind of stretches out like a honeycomb type texture. And it's really cool. And it's like the paper wrap itself, I think it has 4 leaves on prior redirect. I think.
Well, that's good.
So that's good. 4 leaves is good.
4 leaves is good.
Yes.
Mariana is saying that one of the reasons she wanted to buy the deck was because of this ecological aspect. So I think many have the same thoughts. So really cool.
That makes me happy.
So I'm just going to check if I have any questions, because most of my questions are I asked our followers if they have anything they want to know. So I've tried to mix them in there. But you have talked about it, so it came out naturally, so it's okay. But maybe one just of curiosity, which card was the first you created in Oak Ash Thorn?
Not even surprisingly, the Fool was the first card. I think it was the first card description that I wrote. And it was the first card that he actually illustrated. It kind of evolved. When I was first thinking of the Fool card, before I even started working on my artwork descriptions, I thought of like a little baby bird in its nest. But then it kind of evolved, so cute. So it kind of evolved to this, I thought, well, why not have a little deer? And instead of it being little dog, because you have to think of what do I find in the woodlands? I thought little butterfly guiding that little fawn. And he looks like if you were with him, he'd be on his little wobbly legs and he's taking his first steps. So it is kind of funny that the first deck that I created and the first deck that was illustrated was a Fool card, which is the first, basically the first card you normally see in a tarot deck. But it turned out beautifully. Yeah, it did. Yeah. So it has like little, where did I put the Fool? It has daisies on the ground, which I looked at a lot of symbolism, and usually the daisy flower symbolizes innocence. So that's why I picked the daisies. And the dark skies are something that were kind of a decision between me and Adam. He said, why don't we, when we were talking about the majors and setting them apart from the rest of the cards, we decided on doing the dark mystical skies. I always find it kind of gives it an air of importance, because the major arcana, they usually play a more significant role in a reading anyway. So, but I love it. It's like got a very Bambi feel to her. The little the legs.
It's so cute.
And I'm working on artwork descriptions for deck 3, which I want to do an oracle deck. So
Oh.
I have a card that features a little deer in that. So I'm holding a little apple in her mouth. I won't say more.
Well, that's a good.
I'm always working on something. I find it very hard to sit still. So if I'm not working on deck number 2, I'm working on deck number 3, and it's just me. I always have to be moving. I always have to be doing something.
Yeah.
But yeah, be good. Can't wait.
So,
Can't wait for the dragons.
How would you describe, if someone asked you now, what do you do for a living, or what do you want to do when you grow up? So how would you explain what you do?
Well, here's the thing with that, and I don't mean to do it because it sounds really insulting to us people who like tarot and oracle, but like I forget who I was talking to, but they said, "What do you do for a living?" And I'm like, always in my head, I have a standard answer, and it never comes out that way because I feel a bit like they won't understand it.
Yeah.
And I always start off with, and I shouldn't say this, well, don't think this is weird or anything. And I'm thinking, and every time I say that, I'm like, why am I starting off with that? Because we're not weird. We're not weird. But it comes out of my mouth. I don't know why. I think it's because maybe I feel that someone will judge me because they're like, what? You do what? It kind of comes down to, well, I created and published a tarot deck, and the usual reaction is, a what? A tarot deck, like tarot cards, like, oh, right. I said, but there's tarot decks out there, and like for everything. Like if you like Star Wars, there's a Star Wars themed tarot deck. If you're into dogs, there's a dog themed tarot deck out there. It's hard it is difficult to describe to people because they don't expect that that's what you do for a living, and they don't quite understand it.
Yeah.
And I really need to get myself out of the habit of saying, don't think I'm weird. Don't think this is weird or anything.
Yeah.
Because it's not. So I don't know why I do that.
Well, maybe after the second deck you won't say it anymore. Maybe it's just it's so new. So
I think to people in the community, they understand. Like if I was talking to someone who was into tarot, and like I met them for the first time and they asked me, what do you do? I created a tarot deck, and then you could automatically start that conversation.
Yeah.
Because they understand it, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because it gives me an opportunity as well to show my love for tarot and get them as excited about it as I am.
Yeah.
So maybe convert some people over to reading tarot, like doing a bit of like, oh, I should look into this. I might like this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool.
So it's hard to explain what I do for a living.
Yeah.
Because it's not your typical job, is it?
People can't label you. They can't put you in any box.
Yeah. And I think maybe that's why, is that I feel like they might.
Yeah.
But most people are very interested once you explain it to them.
Yeah.
And you explain the process, and I've worked with an artist, and then you actually show them pictures. They understand it a bit more, like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I really need to think of a better way to answer that question, though.
You're an
I created
author.
and published a deck of cards, but that still would come out.
You're an author of some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a writer, and then they asked, because I think when we were having someone in doing some building work, they said, what do you do? And I said, I'm a writer. What have you written? I'm like, oh man, now I have to confuse you.
Well, I wrote cards.
Yeah, I wrote a tarot deck, essentially. Yeah.
I'm just gonna see if anyone has any last questions. I'm just gonna say in Finnish. So I didn't translate. I just realized that it won't work out because I have never had done an interview like this in English, and then if I would have to translate, that would not work out. So I skipped that idea. But I'm just gonna say in Finnish, if someone is listening still. Jos teillä on jotain kysyttävää, niin nyt olisi hyvä hetki viimeisille kysymyksille. Niin kohta me aletaan lopettelemaan. I just told people to, if they have something they want to know, now would be the time to ask, because our time is probably coming to an end.
I know, it went quick, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really fun.
One day I'm gonna have to visit. One day when I can finally travel safely.
Yes.
I'd love to visit. And I could be like, hi.
Yeah, that would be so great.
That would be great.
Yeah, one day that will come.
Yeah.
Just have to wait for a while because the comments come with a delay. So if someone has anything to say. We still have people on, so that's good.
What was the last card you created? Is it the last card that I created in Oak Ash and Thorn?
I think so.
Oh gosh, what was it would be my most challenging card that I created. What would that be? I want to think possibly one of the court cards. I think I was last minute writing my court cards. I think the court cards can be a bit challenging, you know, especially in like the natural world, trying to figure out a way to, you know, to have that work with an animal in place of a human.
Yeah.
And make it look like it's naturally occurring. I want to say maybe I couldn't even say. I'm guessing probably the Queen of Cups. Maybe.
Oh, she's so cute. It's
either that or the Wheel of Fortune. The Wheel of Fortune, I think in both Oak Ash and Thorn in the next deck, the Wheel of Fortune was kind of a last minute deck. She's beautiful.
She is beautiful.
She came out so nice.
She's really beautiful. So cute.
But the Wheel of Fortune I find is a challenging card to write, just because there's so many ways that they can be illustrated, and finding a way to do it in a naturally occurring. That was the challenge. Like sometimes I would be sitting with an artwork description for days and not getting anywhere with it.
Yeah.
And just because, how do I make this work in the land of Oak Ash and Thorn? But me and Adam, we put our heads together, and he thought, well, what about a spider web? And I said, well, how about we add the northeast, south, and west, and the tarot and into the web. And it kind of deals, I always think of the Wheel of Fortune as dealing with like karma and cycles. So the way that you look at those animals is you have like the owl with the little dangling mouse, and then the snake, and so many things can be happening in that card depending on what direction or what choices you make. But that's always a challenging card to write.
Yeah.
I would definitely say.
Yeah.
But that's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was Anna is thanking us. Okay, someone is asking. Minna wants to know a bit more about the idea behind the Hanged Man.
Yes, and it's actually on the top of my deck, because when you were talking about favorite cards, it's like it ranks in my stack of favorite cards from the deck. I mean, they're all my favorite, but you know, like top favorite. So I know that like a lot of decks portray the Hanged Man as being hanging upside down. But again, when I was thinking of the world of Oak Ash and Thorn, I kind of pictured this mouse, and if you notice in the card, it's raining.
Yeah.
And he's kind of sheltering under that really beautiful yellow dandelion, and he's high up on that stem, so we can get a better look of everything that's around him. I always think of the Hanged Man as perspective, so looking at things in a slightly different way. So I thought it looks a bit, you know, sad for this mouse. You know, he's up on this flower, and it's raining, and it's not very nice weather out.
Yeah.
But he's kind of keeping himself dry underneath that flower, and he's able to see what's happening around him. So that was kind of the whole idea. It was about the idea of taking a bit different perspective on things.
Yeah.
So like your outlook.
Yeah.
So he's so cute.
It's really cute.
I hope that answered Mina's question.
I think so.
Yeah, good.
And nothing new has come up. Is there anything you feel like you want to talk about still?
we covered it
We
all.
covered quite a
Unless I'm forgetting something, but no,
no.
it's been a really good chat. I like these kinds of chats. I haven't done that. I've done one besides
Yeah.
besides chatting with you, and I think I'm always a very nervous person because I'm like, I hope people like me. I hope people understand what I'm talking about. Because I'm this, this American living in the UK, and I sometimes stumble over my words, and I overthink things all the time. But it's it's felt really natural and
Good.
and nice, and
Good.
it's just been a nice chat.
Good. I think everyone's happy, and I'm really happy and so grateful that you wanted to do this, because
Yeah.
I think this is something that is really interesting to myself, but to others as well, to hear about, because you get kind of a whole different aspect and relationship to the cards when you know a bit about them, and you see the person who has created them, and you know that it's actually a person who has made these, not.
Yeah.
And all the work that goes to make this, and the artwork that Adam has created is amazing. And I just thought about all these animals in these suits, like the squirrels, well, not ravens, but we have crows and foxes and hares. We have all of those in our backyard, so it's kind of like, I think that's one reason why Finns really love these, because these have animals that we find in our nature. It's not like elephants and giraffes and tigers, even though those are beautiful animals, but you don't have the same kind of relationship to them because you have never seen them, maybe. So, and dragons, well,
when I lived in Florida. Well, I was born in New York, and I moved down to Florida when I was 12 or 13 years old, and I moved here about 7 years ago. And in Florida, everyone I knew saw manatees, in person. I had never seen a manatee. And it's kind of like me with foxes and hedgehogs here. Everyone seems to have seen foxes and hedgehogs in real life.
Yeah.
I'm like, I never see them. I think we were out walking our dog one night, and I saw the little silhouette of a little hedgehog shuffling about.
Oh no.
But I've never actually seen them in real life, so I'm hoping one day I get to see a fox and one day I get to see a hedgehog. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, I think you will.
Like, there's just so many beautiful creatures that live over here, and that was another thing. Is like, I have tons of nature books and books on animals of the UK, and I did a lot of research just to make sure that I was using animals that you do find over here, because like, I was like, I want to put a raccoon in my deck, but we don't have raccoons in the UK.
Yeah.
Which I never knew until I moved here.
Yeah.
So I tried to be really mindful of using animals that you do see over here.
Yeah.
If at all possible.
Yeah.
So
animals that can live in the same environment. So not mixing.
Kind of like if we're from the UK, these are all animals that you would recognize.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, hard to end it, but I think it's time to let you go. And thank you so much. It's been so interesting.
And if anyone's thinking of creating a deck, like I said, totally do it. And I'm happy to answer questions if anyone, has any concerns along the way.
Yeah. I think people appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And I will save this live and then upload it on YouTube if everything works out. I'm used to having technical issues every time I do something like this, but now no problems except in the beginning, but that was nothing. So.
Yeah. It worked on my phone, so we're good.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna quit now. Bye.
Okay.
Have a nice evening.
You too.
Yes. Bye.
All right. Bye.